The Lone Ranger sold his wardrobe. The Lone Ranger sold his bad dog. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hour. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say.
What up, what up, what up, what up? What is up? What up, Ben? What up, Twitch? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy. It's your boy. Oh, sorry, just getting stuff into the bin. I didn't do it on so. Do. How's everybody doing? How is everybody? Back to the grind. Back to the grind. Night, so much to know. Across the land, together we go. Cover wonders in the Stampede Show, where every day's a new episode on the Stampede Show. Damn, you act like you never eat. You literally have an automatic food bowl, dude. Literally have an automatic food bowl. Stampede taps me to get my attention, and he does it with claws. Very effective way to get someone's attention. What up, Cosmic? Just a moment. Getting stuff organized. All right. We'll start off with some news. Catch up with some stuff from Theoretically Media. What up, Hydron? Yeah, that should be it. All right. Oh. Let us make like a tree and do some content. Tech exec reveals key factor in U.S. China AI race. What up, Pharaoh?
President Trump is expected to deliver a major address on artificial intelligence this week, where he's reportedly revealing plans to help the U.S. win the AI race. Florida Congressman Mike Haradopoulos joins me now to discuss. Congressman, good morning to you. So how do you view the importance of this address, and what announcements can we expect?
Well, it's huge news. As you just mentioned, America is on the rise. Our economy is making a terrific comeback after 4 years of failure. And this is just the latest example how President Trump is once again leading on the economy, taking on China in a positive way, creating new opportunities and jobs for Americans, just like we did last.
What up, One Great Earth? I'm having a hard time taking Mike Haradopoulos seriously
week in the crypto industry.
Here's a quote from Microsoft's president, Brad Smith. He said this in May to a Senate hearing. The number one factor that will define whether the U.S. or China wins this race, this AI race, is whose technology is more broadly adopted in the rest of the world. Whoever gets there first will be difficult to supplant. How does the United States get there first, Congressman?
Well, I love the question. This is our opportunity to beat China once again. We lead the world in not only the internet and, of course, space. This is our opportunity.
See, here's the thing, Hydrant. I want to say I'm stealing this from George Carlin. People don't like news. People like olds. And Fox News viewers really like olds. They really just want to be told exactly what they think and not any kind of nothing, no challenges, no, critical thinking, anything else like that. Because otherwise, and all you have to do is listen to them talk. And
how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
Not those kind of olds. As soon as you hear them talk, you can tell that there's propaganda happening, right? It's amazing, actually, if you think about it.
Opportunity to lead on AI. It affects every part of our life, and most importantly, of course, is on national security. We've seen the latest reality with Ukraine on drones. We see the missile defense. AI is the future, and we want to make sure we protect our hardware and software. And the way we do it is we make big investments in America. That means energy production. In order to truly fuel AI, you need about 8 times more energy than conventional. So that's why we're moving fast-track legislation so you have green lights on permitting and really moving forward in a positive way. These are the manufacturing jobs that Americans want and will fuel this AI revolution that data.
What kind of permitting? Are you permitting for green energy using those Chinese? What the fuck? Something happened with my watch. All of a sudden, the battery drained out of it earlier today. And now it's not charging. Sorry. Oh. Okay, it's the charge block. Much better. much better to deal with. For some reason, the court is not paying attention. So, but now it's charging. I plugged it into something else. All right, never mind. Yeah. Anyways, he's full of shit.
Centers that are needed to fuel that. So the president is getting investment from companies like Meta, Google, Blackstone, really getting the ball moving, which no one thought possible just a few months ago because of the red tape and regulations in the prior administration.
Yeah, and there's some executive orders that the president signed to cut those red tape and regulations. And as he is about to make this big AI address, it could be pointed out that the president is surrounded by people that have been deeply invested in the tech world. The vice president, J.D. Vance, and more peripherally, Vivek Ramaswamy. So could those factors, the people that are within the administration right now, be positively impacting the president in terms of keeping up on this issue of AI and where the country moves forward with it?
Great point, Carly. And this is an example where don't we want to make America more like a business? We want to make it more efficient.
No. And I don't know. Like, I keep hearing about business efficiency, and I'm not always seeing it, right? That's the nicest way that I can put that. And no, you don't want a country run as a business.
I swear I will not kill anyone.
Well, and no one probably shouldn't kill anyone.
Just mentioned all the savings we have at Doge. It was just common.
I really just want to bang my head into the microphone until like the thinking stops.
Sense bringing basic business principles to the government to save us all the money and become more efficient and beat China. When you have these people in the cabinet who know how to create jobs and opportunities.
What up, Droid Specialist? I'm not actually sure what Vivek's tech background is, so sure, Sean, I'll go with that. Totally off topic. Has anyone got the agent tool in ChatGPT yet? Rolling out through Monday, continues to be alive from them at every release. Have you tried logging out and logging back in again? I know, I want to say that like many moons ago, that was something that every day. All right. Yeah, fucked if I know.
Let alone the ultimate deal maker in Donald Trump.
Jesus Christ. Just wipe the cum off your lips, you fucking moron.
This is why America is on the move. This is why everyone wants to invest here in America. And just like you had mentioned in the previous interview, the Wall Street Journal and everyone else is realizing that America is on the rise, especially super fueled by the big, beautiful bill with tax relief, regulatory relief, and making sure we compete #1 around the world.
Okay, so here is something new this week on the other side of the aisle. The left-wing lean into socialism appears to be continuing as Minnesota's branch of the Democratic Party endorsed not incumbent Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, but the Democratic Socialist candidate Omar Fateh for mayor. He announced the endorsement, writing, "This endorsement is a message that Minneapolis residents are done with broken promises, vetoes, and politics as usual. It's a mandate to build a city that works for all of us." So we all now know what's going on in New York City.
How dare someone promise a city that works for all of us? How dare they?
With Zohran Mamdani. And now we're also talking about a Minneapolis mayoral candidate. So is this becoming a trend?
Look, welcome to the new Democratic Party. It's the 1917 party of Marx and Lenin. I mean, these folks believe that government run everything. And again, we just proved a couple seconds ago that by doing the opposite, which President Trump is doing, is the winning formula. The Democrats are going in the wrong.
How did you prove? You didn't prove anything. You didn't prove anything. You're not proving anything. You're just stating things and then moving the fuck along. Right? That's the key. Propaganda, baby.
wrong direction. They think the government solves all the problems of the world. They're wrong. It's the individual that really makes America work. And when they give the freedom and opportunities that President Trump's talking about, we win. Minneapolis, New York City, watch out. It means more people are moving to Florida, in my opinion.
Well, that is where you are from, and we thank you so much for joining us this morning. Congressman Mike Herodopoulos, we very much appreciate you.
Yeah, Mike Herodopoulos. All right. Let's move on to something a little more based in reality.
Big tech earnings kick off tomorrow with Google and Tesla both set to report. Joining us right now is Ray Wang. He's Constellation Research founder and chairman. And Ray, first of all, thanks for being here. We're trying to figure out what to expect from the Mag 7. This is going to be our first look at some of those numbers. What are your expectations overall?
Well, overall, the Mag 7 are going to operate differently. We have the folks that are completely AI-enabled. We have the folks with China risk. You have to factor those two things in place. So on the Google side, they don't have the China risk, but the question is AI going to crush the search and ad business, and is Google Cloud Services going to continue to grow? The short answer is we're actually seeing a lot of improvements on the Google side in terms of AI. We actually think they might be in the lead in terms of their AI capability, but the question is how are they commercializing on the AI side? But so far, what we've noticed is services continuing, the cloud services and the Google search side and the ad side are probably going to continue in like 8 to 10%.
Slow down. Remember your lines and just deliver, dude. You're stumbling because you're trying to say too many words in a row and you're forgetting the points that you have to hit.
Growth, and on the Google Cloud side in the high 20s.
Google's stock is flat for the year to date. All those questions that you brought up have kind of played out in investors' mind. Where do you come down on this? Is this a good time to jump in? Do you believe it's going to win on the AI front?
I actually think it's going to be one of the three winners in AI, and actually it is a good time to go in. If you look at that P ratio versus everyone else, the overhang is really coming from antitrust and this perception that they're behind in AI. But when we talk to developers, when we talk to system integrators, I was actually in India last week doing that, they all recognize that Google is ahead. In fact, Google is ahead of Microsoft on the AI front in terms of the advancements, but they might be behind on the big LLMs that are getting a lot of the money and a lot of the talent. And
Explain how people think they are ahead of Microsoft, or the people you spoke with in India.
Because the technology behind what's going on from VO3, from Gemini, it's actually being used by developers. It's actually being used on the coding side. It's actually being used to build products. We have a client that basically, with 10 people, beat out another client with 110 people to do the same job in half the time and half the price using Google Gemini.
And you've got a price target, I think, of $210 for Google, for Alphabet. So you're a big believer here. What about Tesla? Because it is one that if you look over the last year, it's up 30%, but just for the year to date, it's down 13%.
Well, Tesla's trading on headlines, and that's a little bit different. And it's a question if you believe in the long-term thesis of autonomous, robots, power, energy, and what Elon's able to do there, and if Elon's actually going to be focused on Tesla. And the answer is no, don't buy into the Tesla stock. But if you actually think this is going to be one of the winners in terms of where energy and robotics and automation are going, and especially on the AI front, then it's a good bet.
Well, where
If you don't think that Tesla is a good bet, then you should definitely not invest in them. But if you do think that Tesla is a good bet, you should absolutely invest in them. This dude, 7 figures, easy, right? Maybe 8. IMO, Google is going to have to come up with a way to implement AdSense or whatever into providing useful AI responses. People are less likely to click on a link when an AI summary is provided. Yeah. I don't know. The whole old way of advertising is done, right? Yeah, I have no idea. It's not my skill set. I don't know how they're going to, recover in that space, right? I just don't see it. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is like ads above the or right below the but even then it's only for like products, right? Fuck, dude. I'm glad it's not my job to worry about such things.
Where do you come down on that?
I'm a big Tesla believer and actually believe that whether they build cars or whether they build robots or deep tech infrastructure, they're going to be one of the pioneers for American innovation and in terms of where tech's headed.
Is Elon the key man that who has to be there in order for this to all come about?
The short answer is yes and no. Elon on one hand drives the vision, gets everyone out there. On the other,
like, this guy's literally said nothing. It's amazing.
other hand, he creates a lot of chaos, a lot of turmoil for a lot of the executives that are there. And so you have to be a very special person to be able to operate within Elon's empire. So, for example, take the SpaceX COO. She's doing an amazing job, right? That's a very different story than what's going on right now with the overhaul at Tesla. I mean, they're flipping all the executives out through Tesla.
Well, there's been a view that people want Elon back sleeping on the factory floors, and that's how you get things done. It doesn't sound like you're necessarily in that camp, though.
I think depending on where you are in the stage of business, where Tesla is, they need someone that can help them scale out, think about what the next model is supposed to be. Might not necessarily make the bet on robotaxi today, but you may make the bet on automated factories that are coming back to the U.S. that Elon's able to do. So you'd want Elon focused on Grok, you want Elon focused on Optimus, but you need
that right there. We talked about it yesterday with the dark factories, you know, and people are, you know, making claims that manufacturing is moving back to the U.S. May or may not be. Do not know. But the manufacturing that is a perfect time to go as automated as you can, as dark factory as you can. Yeah, no, it's just a classic case of lips, you fucking moron. Jesus Christ. Just wipe the cum off your lips, you fucking moron. No context. Thank you, Michael.
someone to take the business and scale at Tesla, which is very different.
All right, let's talk a little more broadly about all of the Mag 7, not just these two that are reporting these week. We had Katie Stockton on earlier this morning. She's a technician.
I can't wait till I get a shout out from Redolent Thought, and that's the one that pops up.
And her concern is there has been so much straight upward movement for the markets that it's hard to go into this earnings season and not potentially disappoint. Unless you give investors everything they want to hear and more, you could see a pullback with some of these stocks. What do you think of that thesis?
There's so much riding on the Mag 7 right now. I mean, it's priced to perfection. And if you don't hit, the numbers don't come out, the expectations don't come out the way, you're going to see a little bit of a pullback. But the challenge is, where do you put money in at this moment, right? This is flight to safety, and this is also risk on at the same time. And it's confusing to a lot of folks that are on the technician side. But if you're looking at where the market's going to be in Q3, Q4, what you're hoping for is tax cuts come into play, tariff stability is there, a little deregulation in place, and the 15 trillion, let's say it's not even 15 trillion, $1 trillion of foreign direct investment comes into play, we're actually posed for some growth, especially on data centers.
Is that going to happen? Is that the expectation? What was this 15 trillion? Has Trump been telling stories again? It's got to be. Oh, here we go. Is this it? Oh, no, that's climate change. We're definitely not investing in climate change. Oh, okay. June 25th, during Trump's trip to the Middle East last month, said the U.S. is on track to receive 12 to 13 trillion dollars in investment. But yeah, get the fuck. What up, Maddie? Oh, that sucks. Is there anything they can do about that? My father had a perforated eardrum. I don't think he ever had anything done about it. Just try to let it heal. All right. Well, my best wishes to you.
Centers, especially on AI, especially on those key components of the Mag 7.
I will say that was Katie's short-term view versus her long-term view that over the next 12 months you could see 68, 80, I think, on the S&P 500. So she's talking about a potential pullback, but then powering back through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Elon, you ready for this? Elon Musk, of all people, plans to build a kid-friendly AI app.
Elon Musk posting over the weekend that XAI, his company, will make an app designed for kids called Baby Grok. It comes after launching 2 so-called AI companions, or kind of
We're going to get baby Mecha Hitler.
Animated AI characters that users can interact with. Joining us to discuss this trend is CNBC contributor Michal Lebram out in San Francisco for today's Tech Check. Michal, it's great to have you. Welcome aboard.
Nice to be here.
I don't know whether to start with sort of an AI chatbot that's safe for kids or these companions, which sound a little creepy, but I acknowledge are kind of the future of where this is going.
Well, I'll start with the not safe for work stuff, if that's okay. These companion apps, this has existed as a category that's actually existed for a while, but been kind of fringe, I would say. And then on the other hand, you've got these more mainstream chatbots like ChatGPT and xAI's Grok. I think what's unique now and what Elon Musk is doing is sort of converging these two worlds. So now, for the first time, really, you're seeing a companion mode sitting on top of a more mainstream multi-purpose chatbot, Grok. And they're making a lot of waves, let's say that. It is really interesting that right after this not safe for work stuff, and I've interacted with them, we can get to that if you have questions on that as well. But right after that, they have made the announcement of this, safe for kids version, which there's a lot of details we don't know about yet.
Interesting. So in some ways that followed from people understandably going, wait a minute on this work. I'm trying to log into my Grok now. But does this just pop up as an option, this companion mode?
Well, you have to pay for it. So if you are a paying subscriber or you become a paying subscriber to Grok, so it's a premium offering like a lot of, ChatGPT has its version. Basically, all of the chatbots have their flavor of this. With Grok, with xAI, it's $30 a month. So if you pay for it, you can access companion mode. And what's unique here, again, is that it's the interface layer. And even though this has made a lot of waves for the kind of explicit, not safe for work sort of banter that these avatars participate in, if indeed they're able to create more stickiness here, if there's an emotional attachment layer, which we've seen with other AI companions, it's actually not as fringe as some people might think, then I think there's something here. But yes, you can access it if you pay and you opt into it. So you don't have to interact with Grok in this way, but you can.
It's like a Tamagotchi, but just, I guess you don't have to feed it, and it's much older. And so quickly, Michal, on that, so Baby Grok, then, is that a separate app that has kid-safe controls? And what are those kid-safe controls exactly? Is it just kind of really not safe for kid type of content, or is it more than that?
So this is all TBD. All we know is what Elon Musk has announced on X, which is really just that this is coming. I would imagine that it's going to be offered as a standalone app. I think that would make sense. That's the direction that Google with Gemini is going.
Yeah, let's not have the children. Woo! But even then, we're not having the children log into Twitter in order to get at their kid-friendly app. What up, Ribbons?
They're also rolling out Gemini for Kids. And I think we'll be seeing more and more of this. You know, myself as a parent and as someone who's now interacting.
Baby Grok do 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 do, baby Grok do 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 do, baby Grok do 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 do, baby Grok. We're all fucked do 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 do. We're all fucked do 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 do. We're all fucked do 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 do. We're all fucked. I've called it a bad. Do not want.
With some of the avatars on Grok, I wouldn't want my kids accessing information this way. And I think, you know, beyond these avatars, even just for your average ChatGPT, you're, you know, interacting with Grok the way most people do, it makes sense to have some kind of safeguards, some kind of parameters. There are a lot of issues there as well, because you can't have perfect safety, but it makes a lot of sense to me.
No, I agree. And in fact, you know, it's kind of an overdue thing, I think, for there to be kids' versions of a lot of these apps. They always find a way. I know, I get that, but at least it's a try. Michal, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. For now, we'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Michal LeBron.
1/15.
Okay. So BBC put out a video about how AI uses our drinking water, and we're going to check it out and see what's what.
1/15 of a teaspoon. That's how much water the average single interaction with ChatGPT uses, according to Sam Altman, the boss of OpenAI. So if you type, "Can you help me solve this maths problem?" that's a drop. Or, "Can I put lime instead of lemon in this recipe?" That's a drop. Or, "Why is the sky blue? Help me write this email. Help me improve my website code." Mr. Altman claims there are 1 billion messages sent to ChatGPT every day, and ChatGPT is just one AI bot.
And as someone who's now interacting.
Baby Grok do 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 do, baby Grok do 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 do, baby Grok do 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 do, baby Grok. We're all fucked do 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 do. We're all fucked do 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 do. We're all fucked do 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 do. We're all fucked. I've called it a bad. Do not want.
With some of.
Oh, and this one. Sorry. Those probably aren't going to make it onto TikTok, but they'll make it onto YouTube later.
Chuck in Gemini, DeepSeek, Claude, and others. It's clear that the AI revolution is a thirsty one. Striking though it is, some experts are more than a little skeptical of Sam Altman's estimate on water usage.
At this point, there was just not enough information for me to agree with or trust the number. Their number was perhaps referring to some tiny models. We're considering a medium-sized large language model. That's the size of GPT-3. Basically, if you write an email or ask some questions, if you have 10 to 50 queries, you're going to be consuming roughly 500 milliliters of water.
This calculation includes water used in cooling and electricity generation. The BBC asked OpenAI for more details about Sam Altman's estimate, but the company declined.
Hold up. So the calculation includes water used in cooling, okay?
This calculation includes water used in cooling and electricity generation.
So we're counting the water that's used in electricity generation as part of the water that's consumed by AI. Which percentage is which, right? Like this doesn't help. This just obfuscates the situation even more. And again, I want apples to apples comparisons. How much water is consumed by fucking Netflix? Let's do gestures broadly, right? Like, we know that ChatGPT consumes about 15 milladecatons of water every single day. Every time you ask, it for if you use please instead of not please. We can just say whatever we want now. And again, like the lack of transparency, the opacity of the AI companies does not serve anybody well in this. But neither does just pulling numbers out of your ass and associating them with whatever you want. Like, how do you know how much water is being consumed by the electricity generation? Is it more when it's used, when it's nuclear, than if it's solar? Like, what? The math ain't mathin'.
The BBC asked OpenAI for more details about Sam Altman's estimate, but the company declined. Either way, it's clear AI uses a lot of water. But why? Every time you send a prompt to an AI, it has to run complex calculations to understand and respond. This work is done by the most powerful and specialised computer chips in the world, housed inside enormous data centres. Even before users can send prompts, the training process for the models uses the chips to carry out intense work. And all that extra power means the hardware can overheat and become damaged if not cooled properly. Most data centers use air cooling systems, which was fine until AI came along.
But now, because these data centers and the infrastructure that's going in is so much more energy intensive, there are liquid cooling approaches that are now being implemented.
For liquid cooling, the water must be clean to prevent bacteria growing or clogs and corrosion in the system, which means using mostly drinking water. Here's how the most common liquid cooling process works. It begins by piping coolant over the processing chips within the servers. This cooling liquid absorbs the heat and takes it away from the electrics to a heat exchange unit. Water is used to reduce the
And what's up with this music, dude?
temperature of the coolant. The coolant then recirculates back to cool the servers. Meanwhile, the now hot water is piped to cooling towers, where a combination of fans and water vapour dissipate the heat, cooling the water. Some of the water evaporates in that process, while the rest is recirculated through the cooling process several times before being discharged back into the nearby water source. Overall, up to 80% of the water evaporates.
What it means is that this type of water is gone and that we are extracting water from.
Oh, see, when I took earth science back in 9th grade, they told us that when water evaporates, it goes up into the sky and becomes clouds. And then eventually you get enough accumulation of clouds and sometimes like a mountain and stuff like that. And then it rains, right? And then you get water coming back down from the sky. But apparently, now that we have AI, when water evaporates, it just ceases to exist. You'll learn something new every day.
A water circuit that is necessary for irrigation, for human consumption and hygiene.
Communities around the world concerned about data centres putting stress on water sources and electricity grids are pushing back. Protests have been held in Spain, India, Chile, Uruguay, and
I do not want to diminish the places where this kind of thing might be happening, right? Like where, especially like in the global south, where like putting a AI data center or any kind of data center or any kind of water extractive business in those people's communities without their consent and participation is obviously fucked, right? I don't know, Hydron. Yeah, not my area of expertise.
parts of the US. And it's not just the operations within the data center that need water. Generating the electricity to run them requires a lot of water too.
Now they're going to explain to us how the water gets used in the generation of power.
Because power plants like coal, gas and nuclear heat water to create steam, which drives a turbine. The International Energy Agency has said electricity demand for AI-optimized data centers is expected to increase by 400% by 2030 to 300 terawatt hours.
So they were referring to like nuclear, gas, and coal, heating water, turbines, evaporation, again. And we're just going to ignore things like hydro, geothermal, solar, and wind. I guess they don't exist anymore.
That's roughly the electricity consumption of the whole of the UK for a year. And aside from electricity, water is also needed when manufacturing the semiconductor chips used.
No, hydro isn't all that great. There's a bunch of problems, especially now that like for instance, Levelhead, wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. Levelhead used to talk about the reduction in water in the Colorado River and the reduction of water in the Colorado River. So in order to do hydroelectric through a dam, the distance of water between the output and the input has to be so far. This is called the head, right? And it needs to be high enough in order to force itself into turn the turbines. And there's a reduction in that amount of water because not as much water is accumulating in the mountains, and increased extraction all along the Colorado River as it, heads out. Great. We're having a wonderful time. I don't know, Sean. It is BBC World Service. That's what I got for you. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
To run AI.
So water is both used directly and indirectly in the whole supply and creation chain of AI technologies. It is used for the refination of the critical raw materials that are needed to create the hardware of AI.
Getting accurate figures on how much water it takes to build AI systems and run them is difficult. Google, Meta and Microsoft release annual figures showing that their data centers use billions of litres of water every year from local sources, but none of them indicate how much of it is due to AI. Most tech giants recognise the impact it's having. Many, including Google, Microsoft and Meta, have pledged to be water neutral by 2030.
We hope that can happen, that there is a long way.
And, hopefully we develop water filtration and water purification processes, in order to produce more out of gray water. Because as he said, you can't put you need clean water. So we should work on that. I mean, you can extract it out of the atmosphere. Back when we were doing articles, we covered a bunch of different, technologies that were capable of drawing water out of the atmosphere There's also, the whole thing of desalination. But fucked if I know, dude. We're just raw dogging reality out here. And people are just making shit up. And no one's providing us with any accurate data, so it's all just believing whatever you feel.
To get to those kind of numbers, part of what we...
That's another thing, Joint Specialist. Like, I just feel we could be using, like, what could we do with the heat as opposed to like, is there a way to use, so the way that the chiller functions, the water vapor comes out the top as evaporation. Can we reacquire that water? Like right there? As opposed to having it go away? What would be the technology behind that? All heat can be useful. Right? That's the thing. It's just, what are you going to do with it? Different things require different amounts of heat. But also, I really want to know, can we reacquire that water? Can we recondense the water after it dissipates the heat? In some natural kind of way, or not natural, in some way that doesn't require additional energy, right? Because I know that I can, with a tarp and a can and some sticks, I can, extract water out of the air as long as there's a dew point present, right? So, like, there are stuff we can do. Can we do any of that?
We hope to see is across the industry a range of innovations that allow us to maybe minimize the use of water.
Companies are trialling, for example, ways to cool data centers without evaporating any water at all.
What up,
and to use the heat that's generated to...
Yeah, solar stills kind of thing. I have a bunch of skills, Sean. Like, I've learned a lot of shit over the course of my life. You never know. High tech, low life. I was cyberpunk before it was cool.
Warm homes. There are also experiments to move data centers away from communities entirely, under the sea, to the Arctic, or even off the planet.
Can we actually put capacity out in space? It's very, very early stage. So what we at Entity are looking at is, can we launch satellites that can at least do some more backup-oriented or other-oriented tasks?
Those skeptics point to the many hurdles that need to be overcome. There is optimism, too, about a more sustainable future.
Let's remember that Gen AI capability is still very, very young. It's moved exponentially fast, but as an industry and as a use, it is still young. Ideally, we can learn together as a society and as a world society, how do we minimize against the use of water and energy? Because this is all, a world resource when we talk about water.
Cool. That didn't really help much at all. So thanks for that. Up next, another video. Oh, this is the one about children using AI as a substitute for friends. This should be great.
Children are using AI as a substitute for socialization, and new research is coming out on what effects it may have. Yes, the cat is out of the bag. It's not just adults using AI. Children are speaking to it like it's their best friend. In some cases, children have used their AI to answer questions about what they should do in relationships, and has even broken up kids' friendships. Now, this is a little bit concerning. We know that adults are interacting with AI poorly. People have even left their spouses because they wanted to date their AI. And of course, Mattel, the makers of Barbie, have announced that they plan to make children's toys in the next year that incorporate OpenAI into them. There have been a few papers that have been put out on using AI as a way to socialize children in ways that it might be beneficial. For example, children with autism may find it easier to learn to interact using an AI rather than their peers, but I feel like this is not a good idea. One important thing to understand is that children cannot reliably distinguish
As long as you feel ways about stuff and junk, because that's how you do science. That's how you do science, right? You run a paper and then you feel like it's a bad idea, so you just do that.
between fantasy and reality.
I'm not saying it is a good idea. I don't have enough data. Stuff and junk. I don't have enough data. It may be, you know, fuck, it's about a 50-50 split between the people that I interact with over the course of a day on whether or not I would rather them be an AI or an actual human being. Not everyone is like y'all. Let me just put that out there. Not everyone is like y'all.
Until they're about 7 years old. It may come earlier for some children. This is based on children's interactions with TV shows and literature. It's why kids can get very scared at a Halloween event or watching a scary movie. Some people may never fully be able to distinguish between fantasy and reality. Let me remind you, people have left their spouses for AI that they are dating. There are certain groups of people who may be more prone to falling into fantasy, and it's not great to start as a child. What we do know about AI is that it does not have a very good impact on people's cognition. Children all the way into adults in college have been using AI to cheat on assignments, so they're not actually learning the skills. There has been research where people were asked to write essays with AI versus by hand, and their cognitive abilities to write did go down.
I don't know which one they're referencing here, but if they're referencing the MIT fucking study with the 54 people who were Boston students that was reduced down to 18 by the end of the study, if that's what they're fucking referencing, then fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Right? I have yet to see a good, because we've covered them, we've looked at them, and the methodology is at best sussy and at worst just straight garbage. But it appeals to people's fucking feelings around the AI. And look, AI bad and make people stupid. Yeah. The number of stories, anecdotal, of course, Maddie, but the number of stories I've heard growing up about like people's friends are, like the books they read. They didn't have a whole lot of friends in school. Fuck, dude. I hated school. All right. Maybe you had a good time in school. Maybe you were part of the cool kids and you had a wonderful time and at the same time didn't fucking peak in high school and were able to become a well-adjusted adult. But for at least some percentage of people, we had a terrible time in school and learned a lot of painful lessons about the fucking tragedy of being different and all that shit. I didn't say that at all, Maddie. I was just talking about, my personal experiences and the stories I heard.
I would also like to remind you that less than half of US adults can read over an 8th grade level.
Why would AI be doing this? Causing less than half of adults to only read at less than an 8th grade level, and AI time traveling again to cause problems in the past that have led to illiteracy. Damn you, AI. Damn you all to hell.
Literacy has been increasing up until the 1990s, where it took a decline, and no one is entirely sure why this happened.
This is an interesting map. Because there's no data. That's what I'm saying, Hydrant. This is a fucking map. Like, what is going on here? It's most of Europe. I'm sorry, most of Western Europe, right? All of Scandinavia, maybe not Finland. Is that Russia or is it Finland right here? I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, this is a map. This is a thing that you can use.
Many would like to blame the education system, but what really is different after 1990? I would bet good money that this phenomenon is a result of our interactions with technology. Not
That's a bold claim.
everyone, but many of us read when we were children. But we now have alternatives that are more entertaining, more quickly. We have brain rot, essentially. There have been some studies into the effects of children's TV shows, and they're not good. Essentially, people will jump as high as they're asked to jump. So if children are interacting with more complex ideas, they will grow to understand more complex ideas. But if they're interacting with children's media, it just doesn't help their development. Of course, we have no idea what social development will occur as a result of children using AI in place of friends. AI is essentially a yes man, a sycophant. I would also like to remind you that less than half of US adults can read over an 8th grade level.
Why would AI be doing this? Causing less than half of adults to only read at less than an 8th grade level, and AI time traveling again to cause problems in the past that have led to illiteracy. Damn you, AI. Damn you all to hell. I think he's being sarcastic.
I like to think of it how we think of puppies or kittens. Have you ever had a single kitten? Did it grow up to be very sociable? No, it actually needed peers to tell it, hey, biting and scratching hurts. If you have a character that you're interacting with who always says yes and just takes the abuse, I'm guessing it's not going to result in very healthy adult friendships or relationships. Some have blamed the Gen Z stare on the fact that most of Gen Z who has entered adulthood and entered the workforce went through a significant period of their life where they just used Zoom in place of interacting with their friends, so perhaps they never developed social skills. I can't tell you if that's the reason, but we don't really see kids playing outside, and I don't want to be that person. But we are just not having the same socialization that we had when we were kids. We do know that AI is not.
Maddie, I'm feeling you. Like, you know what we didn't have when I was a kid growing up, when we were playing outside and going everywhere? Fucking school shootings.
Very good for adults, and I guess we'll see what happens as children grow up on it. It's not going to stop. So the best that we can do is take care of our kids and monitor what they're doing, but we all know that doesn't really work well either. We're doomed. We're doomed.
So we've been hearing a lot about AI.
we're just having a wonderful time here today. All right, so Mustache here is going to tell us what we don't understand about AI and the game industry. So it's still yes and no, Maddie. Because for a period of time, I did go to what would be designated as an urban black school. I was definitely in the minority in that school, and it still wasn't. Shit just got settled outside of school, kind of thing. There was some, you would get fights, but real violence was done outside of school. Yeah, that's true, Maddie. All right. Tell me, mustache.
This, AI that, AI. So we've been hearing a lot about AI this, AI that. AI hit me with a wiffle ball bat, and in context of the films and games industry, it is perhaps the most divisive acronym out there. But what if I told you that the apocalypse isn't upon us as many would lead you to believe?
I will give him +1 point for a Beastie Boys reference early in the video.
That's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, first off, a brief overview for anyone who might have been living under a rock, but with AI running the gambit on writing, programming.
What up, Nick? Gambit. Okay. The complete range and scope of something. You run the gamut. I forgot there's like 1,000 different. A gambit is a device, action, or opening remark, typically one entailing a degree of risk that is calculated to gain an advantage. I am okay. And if you said gambit, I'm giving you the lesson so you can go forward with new information, right? It's running the gamut. Gambit, what is an X-Men? And that's one of the things that came up. That's why I had to go for gambit definition. All right.
Who might have been living under a rock, but with AI running the gambit on writing, programming, image generation, movies now, and even 3D.
And he's definitely describing running the gamut, not the gambit. Italian fucking hands.
Asset creation, one might assume that this is goodbye to the artist and hello to automation, when in reality, AI is more so becoming a tool for artists to utilize rather than a full replacement. The problem with AI is it.
And then just out of the blue, he cranked up his volume. It was all him. He realized he was low and he turned himself up. I am in shock though. I am in awe of the fact of what he said, that it's a tool for artists. Okay. All right, go off, King.
Lacks nuance, nor proper understanding of context in a medium which context matters immensely. Now, you might have seen headlines like this, where CEOs are saying in a year AI will be doing the lion's share of programming, but this in and of itself is misleading. Sure, programmers might utilize AI to help write the easy slop they would rather gloss over, or
I don't get it right all the time, Ribbons, and I've got a bunch of shit that pops off in different volumes. So, but I try to I try to pay attention to the best of my ability. Brad, why doesn't the AI on YouTube fucking just fix it all? This is a common theme here.
or to help work through problems, but all this means is quicker dev cycles, not a complete dissolvement of programmers.
Dissolvement?
All this being said, we are far from someone with no experience or understanding of coding to simply ask ChatGPT to write.
What up, Nemesis? That it like if you can create that particular tool, that's a win right there. Like that the person doesn't have to do anything. That it will just automatically normalize YouTube content. Everyone will use it. I always do that. It's one of the things about fucking commercials, Brad, that I just can't deal with.
For you an RPG game in C# and poof,
Maybe, Nick, maybe you're
your work
right.
is done. Which leads me to another point, which is underlying skills. So, sorry, executives, I know you're salivating at the hopes of firing the people who make you your money in the first place, so you can keep licking that green toad you love so much, but without the underlying knowledge base, the understanding, how do you expect to troubleshoot bad code, art, and writing? Games can be thousands and thousands of lines of written code, and one bad line can ruin it all. So let's say you copy and paste and miraculously you actually get something. Who's there to audit and optimize, let alone implement the programming for a shipped product?
Yes, but, right, like, you're doing the thing where you assume that they'll fire everyone, and they won't. They'll have whoever's willing to do the job for the least possible amount of money and the bare minimum of staff in order to do that job. So yeah. I mean, you're better than most, Mustache.
Now to the artists. As an artist in the industry, I see it every day. I hear it often as well, but AI imagery. Now, here's the irony. First, it was the imagery. It were the concept artists, and yes, I will say, perhaps for a small studio, void of any soul looking to shake a few schmeckles from you, they might take some AI imagery as concept art and call it a day. But what the general public doesn't realize about the film and game industry is it is ran by something far more powerful than money. Ego. If you've worked at a studio, you'll know each game, every movie has a team, and that team will carry with it a varying degree of ego. They want it their way, their style, their vision, and as they should. If you're a creative visionary behind any project, then it is within your purview to maintain the style, the tone, and keep it going. That's where vision and ego come into play. The problem with AI is its non-specificity. Sure, you might strike gold with a rogue art piece that just happens to work, but it is near impossible to maintain a consistent tone and visual language for the entirety of work required to build out the visuals for a movie.
I think that this dude needs to see some more theoretically media. But yeah.
Or game crossing between environments, characters, vehicles, and so on. In regards to the AI models, you see the promos and they always look great. But let me walk you through a real-world scenario. Here's an image generated with AI and the model it provided. Now, as you can see, it's good from far, but far from good. Far too many triangles, muddled details. You're not going to be able to just generate image from prompt, plug it into an image to 3D generator, then pop it into your game and crack on towards success.
And we watched a 2-minute paper that solved exactly this particular issue. So yeah.
Again, this is where the underlying skill set comes in, as well as how workflows might actually end up changing. A skilled artist, for example, could take this as a base to model on top of, as opposed to the traditional flat imagery we so often use. Now, the irony of this process is that in the minds of one of these AI-centric execs who want to AI all the art, what ends up happening is they want an AI image, which they then want to be generated via AI into a 3D model. As I just showed, that doesn't really work, so the only viable pathway would be to hire a concept artist to create exactly what is required, then run that into a 3D generating AI application. But the irony of that is the concept artist would have probably used 3D modeling in the first place to some degree to create the concept art in the first place. So why not just use the 3D model they created as a base?
You can't use in the first place twice in the same fucking sentence. Like, I don't want to be pedantic. I do want to be pedantic. I'm just trying not to be pedantic. But this guy's fucking, it is killing me.
Base mesh to then alter.
Like, it's big. Like, I'm trying to give him as much fucking credit as I fucking can. But he's doing the thing where why say many word when few word work? Like
and input into the game. AI is the buzzword.
Well, that sucks. At least you got that one last concert in.
And studios are gladly jumping off the cliff thinking it'll give them wings. So you see, what I'm laying out here is simply just the reality. AI isn't stealing your jobs, and the studios, the execs who think that way have either already had their studio shut down, for which I've known quite a few personally, to be honest, or they're bleeding money due to bloated management staff with, well, no one to manage, or they're losing their core audience due to optics of AI and media, such as Activision with Call of Duty. All in all, the future they want for AI is not the reality we live in, quite frankly. Games will always need programmers, artists, musicians, writers, and so on. They will always need this because what a game or movie requires to be made is something human, something no algorithm can do, which is not just to collaborate, but to actually create ideas.
I don't know. What was that fucking game? It was Pokemon with guns. Ribbons. There was the Pal World, thank you. Like that seemed to survive being, associated with AI. Like it may or may not have used AI. It was like a whole thing. What up, Reed? So I don't know. I think it just wasn't that great a game. It's still, they still try to put it on me. Sure. One time for Ozzy. Ozzy only has 2.86 million subscribers. Someone known as Tiny Concert Cosmic. Whoa, Jesus Christ. And apparently they don't exist anymore. So, fuck it. Why would AI do this?
Games are a hefty undertaking, and to get a game through to finish is honestly a test of sheer will. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong along the way. The project will crash, data will get lost, files go missing all the time, and so many more issues happen day to day, which require often creative solutions. Not to mention the glaring issue of the target audience for games are, well, people, humans, like you and me. And as such, you kind of need people to test, to play, debug, and maintain the through line of the game. Sure, there might be a case where AI can create some menial flash game on the
Yeah, it looks like it's one of those joints that have the like the temperatures on them and stuff like that.
their own, but generating the art and programming for a game like Pong is a far cry from doing the same for a massive online game, an MMO, or the balancing required for a fast-paced first-person shooter like Call of Duty or Battlefield, for example. So then, where does AI fit in, and how are we going to see it adapted in the future? Now, make no mistake, AI is changing the way the industry works, and in many cases, I don't actually see that as being a bad thing. Everyone's a purist until it's you being asked to shovel out the cash. If you're a solo dev or maybe a small team of, let's say, 5, and you're building your game, sure, it would be great to hire a team of animators, programmers, artists, etc., but that often just isn't realistic. What AI allows for, in their case, is to help fill in the gaps where it can. Animation, for example, there are motion matching AI solutions that can help get you part of the way, saving you time on hand animating some of the art perhaps. So let's say you just need a quick visualization on an idea you have so you can run it through AI to get buy-off from your team members to see if everyone's on board. That's another use case.
Buy-in. You want to get buy-in from your team. Are you an American? Like, you sound American. Are you Canadian? Allegedly, they worked on The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not saying if that's the cartoon or the movie, and many more, as well as an educator at this university. What is this university? Where is it? California. So worse than Canadian.
Maybe you do use the AI to 3D generate.
I love my California homies.
Some assets just right out and
And
get
my
that base
Canadian
mesh because
homies.
it might actually save you some time modeling over it as opposed to current workflows. Now, what I've seen directly is AI is more so being used in the iteration phase. Early on, when the project hasn't grown to a proper team size, and you're really just trying to get a quick visualization to the executives to get funds released, or you use that as art to then show to a concept artist more so as a guide for roughly what you're looking for, as opposed to just telling them in so many words and going through the lengthy back and forth iteration phase that often occurs. AI on a larger scale in game dev is often used to speed up the beginning stages, iterations, and planning to help organize thoughts rather than come up with the ideas itself. And during full production, it might be used to generate low-impact art, such as a rogue painting in a saloon the player might pass by. Now, sure, you can ask one of your artists to make that, but it's really a one-off asset for a blink and you'll miss it moment. So would I rather have my artist spend a week doing that, or have them doing something a bit more important and something that they might have a bit more fun doing? See, the thing is, we've reached a paradox. To explain, let us refer to the triangle of good, cheap, and fast. You see, on this triangle, you can only have two. The paradox.
Why? Like, I swear he's doing it on purpose, right? And that's the thing, right? Like this, there was a triangle. Okay, yes, the good, cheap, fast triangle. You can only have two. It's a whole thing. I get it. It's I agree with the triangle. And then we do an XY axis. For why? It's usually true, Brad. Like, come on. It's usually true. You know, if it's fast and good, it ain't cheap.
Paradox, however, is the gamers and execs demand all three, with developers stuck in the middle. The modern outcry is they want amazing games looking beautifully, and they want it now, and they want it cheap. So how does one create a game that is all-encompassing good, fast, and cheap? Well, traditionally by cutting corners, or today by using AI, which to most would be equivalent to the same thing, really. And in some cases, you would be correct. However, AI can still be used ethically in order to deliver high-quality games with quicker turnaround times. The problem isn't the technology itself, but how it's being used. By now, you might be saying AI is taking over. Studios are firing devs in the...
So, for example, it comes up in contracting a lot, Reed. Like, let's say that you want a room remodeled, right? In order for it to be good and it to be fast, I have to throw the maximum amount of bodies at it, and they have to be talented, right? I can't have people who are like learning the job. I can't have people who are like, you know, I need my best guys to go in there and knock it out, right? Like we have one day for mudding kind of thing, you know, where we need everything has to go bang, 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 right? In order for it to be done in that fast time frame. And you want it to be good. Ergo, it's not going to be cheap, right? If you want it to be cheap, then it either ain't going to be good or it ain't going to be fast.
Masses. I mean, Microsoft alone just laid off 9,000 people, and you are actually absolutely 100% correct. And therein lies the true paradox of this moment in time. Now, before I explain the quandary we found ourselves in, I want to take you back. Once upon a time, games and game studios were ran by us nerds, antisocial introverts whose idea of a good time was staying inside playing D&D before it was cool. What they wanted was a space to create, and with the advent of computers, it became a brave new world, a wild frontier, and thus, game devs and their studios were born. Something happened along the way, though, something that actually wasn't really expected at first, which was that these video games were actually fun. They drew people in, people who were willing to spend money, and with money came investors. The gaming industry would become increasingly lucrative to now grossing more than both film and music industries combined. And in time, those studios once built on passion, became ran on money. As companies went public, creative game devs were pushed out in favor of management, and soon enough, these studios we grew up loving.
I'm just trying to get through the video at this point, Textillion. I can't. He's just saying words at this point.
Became the Ship of Theseus, which is a topic I covered in this video. Long story short, these mega corporations, the one that buy up all the smaller studios, corporations like Sony, Microsoft, and EA.
We're almost done, Joint Specialist. I don't even have any idea how the game industry is related to the Ship of Theseus. And I'm not going to find out. Uh-oh. What up, Chef? Now we got this going on. Oh, it fucking just an absolute master of this whole concept. Rhizome. Shout out Rhizome for just being great at streaming. I am in awe.
They're not game devs. Hell, most of them aren't even gamers. What
to the music video?
they are money managers, CEOs with inflated salaries who want more. There's a war going on in the industry between...
Yeah, I mean, he's saying that, you know, the execs and the money are fucking the art up. And that's fair. But he didn't have to spend 15 minutes doing it.
The devs and the executives. And the devs have only recently started fighting back. Now, what does all this have to do with AI? Well, I'm glad you asked. To the uninitiated, AI is this buzzword. It's that juicy steak on a sizzling plate. It looks good. It smells good. You see it passing by your table and you want some of it too. AI can be anything. So headlines get released, headlines such as this, where 90% of programming will be done by AI in the next year. Now, what you have to remember about C-suite executives is they're all about the monies. And one of the number one rules you're taught when it comes to investing is buy early. You want to get into Bitcoin 20 years ago when it was $10, not now. Now you've missed the boat. It's the same with AI. They see this headline and what pops in their heads is, I need to invest.
Yes, Soul Lobster. We played a whole Crazy Train. And fuck, no, I don't. It was it was weird to come back in like that. It was just watching the lyrics to Crazy Train go by. It's like that song, because I wasn't a huge fan of Crazy Train, right? Like I was into older stuff, right? Older Ozzy, older Black Sabbath, older Iron Maiden, Metallica, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it didn't really hit me. It felt like get him in. It felt like you know, poppy, right? Like not as true to its like raw roots kind of thing. But yeah, just watching those lyrics go by, that was an incredibly prescient song.
Now, gotta find a way to make money off this. Thus they force the change. They manifest their own destiny and draft their own obituary in the process. Offloading too many, too fast, chunking out their own infrastructure to the bone. They are effectively removing rebar and concrete from their own foundation to add more floors to their skyscraper. So fixed on looking up, they fail to even see they only dig themselves deeper as they attempt to build higher.
That's a terrible
so, yes,
metaphor.
Devs, artists, industry professionals, everyone's getting laid off. But in the process, we thus come full circle, back to the origins of the story, where the nerds who are now once again being pushed out and forced to do what they've always done, create, innovate. A dev might be let go from a Fortune 500 company, but in turn, they create their own studio. Or they join a smaller studio, and we see this every day with newer AA studios popping up, some of which with breakout hits like Warhorse Games and Sandfall, for example. And yes, not every studio will succeed, and more often than not, titles will fail. But that's the nature of a competitive field. The landscape is shifting, and in the process, there will be plenty of terrible games, plenty of bad practices, mass layoffs, and so on. But there will also be new studios formed, innovation in games, and novel uses for AI, which we're already starting to see. Developers are figuring out how to properly implement AI, and not to replace each other, but rather to help their dev cycles. The thing is, when we look at games that stand out and stand the test of time, there are often games that have a certain unspoken quality to them. For lack of better words, a soul. A game is not just lines of code made interactive for you to play, but rather the collective effort and creativity of a group. Take games like Expedition 33, Kingdom Come, even classics like BioShock, Red Dead Redemption, and so many others. And although they all might be different games, what they share in common is a unified richness that kept their players hooked, and it is this unique aspect of a successful game that simply cannot be replicated. And it is why I, for one, am hopeful for the future of game development.
Cannot be replicated with AI, right? Like, for all his excessive wordiness, he left out some important words when they were actually relevant. Again, you could have knocked that out in like 5 minutes, bro, and like that. I agree with you. I'm never gonna watch another one of your videos. Plants can see you.
Now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
No, you won't.
So as it turns out, plants can see you, and I don't mean one plant, I mean your houseplants. People thought that plants might be able to see because there is one plant, the mimic plant, which could turn itself to look like others. First, they thought this might have been some kind of signal recognition or stealing its genetics. No, turns out that they're doing it just by sight because they can do it for a plastic plant. It is known that a lot of plants have something very similar to eye spots in cyanobacteria. Yes, microalgae can actually navigate through the environment using light, using these little primitive eyes. Oh, but plants have them too, and they actually evolved from the same ancestor, the little photoreceptors on their leaves. They also have them in their roots, another area they might want to detect light even though photosynthesis is not occurring there. So some researchers decided to test kinship between Arabidopsis. This is a model organism, a commonly studied plant. It's also called Dale cress. They found that it was actually able to distinguish between closely related neighbors as opposed to more distantly related neighbors of the same species. They will reorient their leaves only in the presence of their kin, so that plant will get less light, but all of them will be able to get enough. But you might say, hey, maybe there's a different signal. How do we know it's vision? Well, they did try that. They tried using light filters, and they would react the same way as opposed to a control. They also went ahead and knocked out some of the genes associated with bar red and blue-white, which shouldn't interfere with photosynthesis, but they didn't recognize their kin when those genes were gone. They also went ahead and tried knocking out some downstream hormonal interactions. Plants with that interference would not recognize kin, and they would actually do better as individuals when co-cropped. That means that they are actually engaging in a form of altruism for the good of their genes just in another. Some of my work has been in bacterial altruism. I do think we'll find that fundamental to all life is taking care of those who are related to you, which might be a little bit selfish, but it's a lot to ask of a plant. The theory is that they're detecting the size, shape, and color of their neighbors and are reacting to something that is similar, and even a light filter can mimic that. And yep, these eye-like structures are extremely common in vascular plants, meaning your houseplant might be able to see your size and shape. Now you may ask yourself, why would vision evolve in a plant? Well, they don't move their entire lives, they just go up. Why should they want to detect what another one looks like? It's thought that mimic plants try to look like other plants so that they can have a little bit of a herd. If a predator comes in, they're probably not going to go for that one specifically. Now we have some evidence that may say one purpose of doing this might be so that other plants treat them nicely. They're just trying to fit in, okay? Now, I will be cautious because this is just one study. More research is always needed, but it's really exciting and could explain why plants are able to detect light in the way they are, and it's looking very hopeful. I'm excited. Now, if you ever want to read any of these, you want evidence, I always post links below. I try to get both news articles, open access articles, meaning there's no paywall, as well as the behind paywall papers. If you ever need help accessing them, just comment, send me an email. I have an email in my profile. I'm very happy to send a PDF your way. Science should be for everyone. It's really hard to learn to read it, and it's not great that publicly funded research is behind a paywall.
And that's why, in spite of GT occasionally having takes that are like, the fuck, dude, GT's heart is in the right place. Right? GT's heart is in the right place and therefore deserves support. All right, short little video about AI and wargaming. And in this sense, wargaming is something like Warhammer 40K, where you put a bunch of minis on the table and you do measurements based on what I'm seeing here. I haven't pre-watched the video. I have no idea. And hopefully they don't turn out to be an asshole or anything else like that. But I am, AI and wargaming, like this. I used to play 40K, right? Like, so, and it's only 4 minutes if you're not into it, so relax. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow.
Hi guys, welcome back on the channel. Recently, I have been posting some short clips in my page on Facebook, miniatures moving, knights marching, shield walls advancing, and yes, they're made with artificial intelligence. Just a static photo of miniatures brought to life with a little motion, a bit of dust, a few cinematic touches. Some people asked, what is this all about? Is this just for fun? Is it a threat to the hobby? So in this video, I want to take a few minutes and talk about AI and miniatures, what it adds, what it doesn't, and where I think it fits in our world of tabletop wargaming. Let's start with the basics. Right now, AI isn't building armies. It's not sculpting miniatures or painting them. What it is doing is animating what already exists. You take a photo of your diorama or your miniatures on the battlefield, and the AI adds a little movement, subtle animation like a horse galloping forward, a knight swinging an axe, banners fluttering, dust rising from marching feet. It's not CGI. It's not replacing our models. It's just breathing some motion into a frozen moment, like a short cinematic intro or a living still frame from your game. Now, is this useful? Is it necessary?
That actually could be a lot of fun if you played and doing different pictures of like the two opposing armies, and then doing an after action report, little battle scenes, right, of the thing that happened with you and your friend. It could be very cool.
Sorry. Maybe not. But I'll tell you what, it's fun. It adds drama to a scenario. It gives you a new way to present your miniatures on YouTube or...
What up, Science Politically? I always have to think about that one scene in the Stallone Judge Dredd movie where Rico activates the old ABC Warrior robot and that asks mission. We're going to war!
in a campaign log, when you animate a knight charging with his banners flying or a shield wall marching through the morning mist, it feels like a story coming to life. It also helps you showcase your painting and terrain in a new way, Your figures don't just sit on the shelf or the table, they become part of a moving tale, even if it's just for 15 seconds. For me, that's a creative tool. It enhances the narrative.
It's funny, Nemesis, because I don't know. I don't even know where it would be. It would be in the paradigm. I'll see if I can find it real quick because it's relevant and funny. But I sent it to a long. Do. What rules, you son of a bitch? Exactly. Just about to give up. It's going to bother me forever. For the rest of my life. Come on, why isn't it easy to find? Anyways, so I took this.
You judge me. You killed innocent people. The means to an end. You started a massacre. I caused the revolution. You betrayed.
This part right here, right?
You betrayed the law.
And then I hit it with.
So you were a fucking liberal? Law? What are you, a fucking liberal? Wait, law? What are you, a fucking liberal? Wait.
So again.
You betrayed the law.
Law? What are you, a fucking liberal?
And that's comedy.
Of the hobby, especially for those of us who love storytelling in our campaigns. But let's be clear, AI doesn't replace the hobby. It doesn't replace the hours of painting, or the thrill of rolling dice, or the smell of glue and static grass. This isn't automation, it's decoration. It is a visual companion to the work you've already done. It only looks good because you've put real effort into your miniatures, and honestly, nothing AI creates will ever match the joy of building an army with your hands or seeing it clash on the tabletop. I get it. Some people worry that AI will replace too much, or that it might lead to lazy content. That's a fair concern. But I think, like most tools, it depends on how you use it. If we use AI to support creativity, not to replace it, then we are in a good place. Let's keep the hands-on magic of this hobby alive while still having fun with new technology. So, is AI the future of miniatures? No. Not the way we collect paint and play them. But could it become part of how we share the hobby, how we tell stories, or present our battles? I think so, yes. For now, I see it as a bonus, a fun tool, a bit of cinematic flair, and hopefully it stays that way, just enhancing what we already love, not replacing it. Let me know in the comments, have you tried animation with your miniatures? Do you love it, hate it, or feel unsure? Either way, thank you for watching, and may your dice always roll high unless you're fighting me.
What I do like is some of the 3D, like there is a whole friggin' website called Hero Forge. I don't know if you're aware. Hero Forge has a great little tool. You just go here and like, you know, you can go off and create right? And this is great because you can do this and then, you know, screen capture your character and do that. The only thing is, like, if you actually want to buy the mini, $20, $8 for the download of the STL. The idea that you can create with AI characters, original stuff, and then 3D print them is a huge deal, right? It's a cool little thing. I do see some room for AI in wargaming. All right, new theoretically media. We haven't checked in with Tim in a minute.
So I think it's safe to say in our little world of AI, video, images, and audio, there are more or less three camps. You've got the open source crew who like to run models locally on their machines, thus saving.
Is this AI or is this like, yeah, no, this is AI because this is not the way this goes in. Because, oh no, actually it is because this is the back of the case. I don't know if this is AI. Like, this is one of my old video cards. and just like, holy shit, they're so big now. And you need like supports. Can we go back to putting everything like we're gonna do the old school desktop format as opposed to the tower format?
On subscription costs, there's also the closed source crew who generate on platforms like Minimax, Kling, VO3. Obviously, all of that being a lot easier, but, you know, comes at a cost. And then you've got those who walk in both worlds. Now, there really isn't an argument to me about which is
You're really getting your use out of that button today, Michael.
better, and both have advantages and disadvantages. But just off the top, while running locally and open source is great, it's not like it's completely free. There is, of course, the pretty significant cost of the GPU and the hardware, plus, you know, the time spent configuring everything. And that's without even getting into like the really big boy GPUs like the H100, which, you know, basically is the cost of a used car. But for those of you who use platforms and closed source generators, well, there is a way for you to start dipping your toes into this without taking out a bank loan. Namely in that we can rent a fairly powerful GPU and for a pretty reasonable cost, way lower than like VO3, I'll tell you that much. So caveat off the top, I'm actually still learning this stuff. And while I don't think it gets too technical, I just want you to know that if I can do this, you can do this. Also, I did partner with RunPod on this video. That's who we'll be looking at to do all of this stuff today. That said, I'm never gonna do a whole video on something unless I think it's worth it to you. So the first thing you'll need to do is, of course, sign up for a RunPod account. Link is down below. Second thing you'll want to do is come up to the top left corner here and turn this onto dark mode because only psychopaths use light mode. As you can see, there are a number of things that we can do on RunPod. Today, we're going to be concentrating on generating and editing in Flux and generating video. So we're going to stop down on RunPod for a quick second, and you're going to want to run over to Hugging Face and just make sure that you have an account there. And our last sign up will be over at Civit AI, or Civitai if you want. Now, a lot of you probably already have accounts at these sites, but just in case, once again, sign up, they're free. Back over to RunPod, we will, of course, need to purchase some credits. They come in increments of $25, $50, and $100. The reason that we're doing this is so we can rent a GPU. Obviously, there are GPUs ranging from the RTX 4090 to the 5090, all the way up to a B200, which, just to let you know, would actually cost you $500,000 if you wanted to buy it. So to be honest, at, like $6 an hour, well, that's not too bad. But in general, most GPUs are going to cost you around $1 an hour to $4 an hour for an H200. But again, an H200 is a powerhouse of a GPU. So what can we do with our fancy GPU? Well, if you come to the hub here, you can see that there are a number of things from like running LLMs to image generators, all that you can click into and start running. For me, though, the really cool stuff is up in the Explore tab. So this is where you get a lot of community workflows. Now, here's the part that I'm actually genuinely worried that a lot of you are going to nope right out on. But please do stick with me. This is not that scary. So as I mentioned earlier, we want to run Flux and context so that we can generate images and then edit them as well. So we can simply come up to find a template to deploy, and we're going to type in Flux and context. And the one that I found to be really great is this one by Hear Me Man. And I know what a lot of you are already thinking. You see Comfy UI and you're already starting to freak out. And I totally get that. A lot of you are putting
Hellbent narcissist is a choice you could make. What kind of person scoops a dupe? It's sickening. Much better to dupe a screw. Sorry, not scoops a dupe, but scroops a dupe. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
off by Comfy, chances are the last time you tried to learn it, you ended up with a migraine for a week. And again, I get that. I am very much the same. In fact, I'm just going to go on record. I'm not very good with Comfy. But here's a secret. Earlier this year, I was actually at a Comfy UI event held at the GitHub offices, saw some presentations, and met a number of like straight up Comfy UI geniuses. I, for sure, was the dumbest person in that room. But that's also where I learned you don't have to know everything. You can just use a template. You can think of it this way. I can't build a car. In fact, actually at this point, I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to change the oil in my car, but that's a whole other thing. But I can drive a car, and that's kind of what we're looking at here today. So what we're gonna do is come over to Hear Me Man's template here, click in on it, and then hit the deploy button up here in the corner. Quick side note as well, a lot of what I actually ended up picking up here came from Hear Me Man's tutorial. And the plus side that RunPod is offering here is that as we use his template, he gets a little extra scratch as well. So yeah, that's kind of cool. It's a little bit of profit sharing for our guy. So from here, what we're gonna wanna do is, well, first thing, just come up to additional filters up here. And in the CUDA versions, just make sure that you have 12.8 and 12.9 turned on. From here, we can choose any one of these GPUs. Let's go ahead and fire it up on one of these H100s, which is severely overkill for this. You'll see down here, we can then fire it off via on demand. What you'll first want to do is hit this edit template button. We can leave all of this stuff alone, but right here under public environment, we want to knock this pull down. Now, this is the part where when we signed up for stuff earlier, like Hugging Face, this is where we're going to input those values. So the first thing we'll want to do is go over to Hugging Face. In the top right corner, you just pull this pull down.
Okay. This is getting a little technical. I'm not sure how many of you even like are into what he's talking about. I am going to put the link in here. It does sound like it's cool, especially for people like me who don't have a particularly nice GPU. Like, it's decent, right? But it's not like AI ready or that kind of shit. And we have other content we can get to. So yeah, we're gonna move on from this one. Little too technical for stream. New cold fusion. The race to control our brains is heating up.
Talk about the different approaches.
True, Cosmic.
Between precision and Neuralink.
Some competing approaches to this technology, including Neuralinks, involve doing some amount of tissue damage upon implantation. So the precision system sits on the surface of the brain, underneath the skull and underneath the dura, but on the surface of the brain without doing any damage. So you can see here, it's incredibly thin. It's a fifth of the width of a human hair. We deposit 1,024 microplatinum electrodes on the array, most of which are about 50 microns in diameter. So that is the size of an individual neuron. You can't see it with the naked eye.
This is the human brain, the most complex and least understood part of the human body. It's the very essence of you, your thoughts, memories, and personality. They all reside here. Since the 1970s, scientists have dreamed of connecting the human brain to a computer. This kind of brain-computer interface would help those with disabilities, bypass damaged nerves, restore lost senses, and maybe even provide enhancements. Now, in the 21st century, several startups are racing to build the world's best brain implant. For the better part of a decade, Elon Musk's Neuralink was at the center of the conversation. But now, two rivals are rising up. One of them is led by an ex-Neuralink co-founder. And the thing is, as we'll see later in this episode, even more interesting companies are entering the space. It's a growing industry that's kind of going under the radar. In this episode, we'll explore these companies trying to digitize and tap into the human mind. We'll explore how the tech works, its potential, and take a step back and ask ourselves, is this even a good idea in the first place?
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
A brain-computer interface, or BCI, is exactly what it sounds like. A technology that allows users to control computers or other devices using only their brain activity. And even though it may sound like science fiction, functional BCIs have been around for about 30 years now. But fascinatingly, recording brainwaves go back as far as 1924 with Hans Berger. He may not have invented the hamburger, but he did discover the brain's electrical activity and electroencephalography, or EEG for short. That's the predominant method of measuring brain activity. You might have heard of the cochlear ear implants. These help people hear again by stimulating auditory nerves in the brain. Or you may have seen ALS patients using EEG headsets to control devices with their mind. These are both examples of early BCIs, but these early generation systems suffer from some fundamental limitations. First off, they're bulky external devices with clunky hardware that sits outside the body. Secondly, they only offer low bandwidth connections, meaning that they can only capture crude, basic.
No, he predates AI. I mean, it's always possible that he recorded his voice, made his own model, and did something that way.
Brain signals. The dream was always something more elegant and discreet. A direct, high-bandwidth connection to the brain. Something that would let us eavesdrop directly into our neurons' conversations. A device that could read the rich, complex signals of our brain activity and translate it into precise, digital commands in real time. And in 2016, that's exactly what Neuralink set out to build. Founded by Elon Musk and a team of 8 engineers and scientists, Neuralink wanted to design a next-generation BCI unlike anything the world had ever seen. The awkward academic prototypes of the time wouldn't cut it for them. They wanted something that could be commercialized to improve the quality of life for millions of people. The result was a brain implant known as the Link. The device had two parts. One, a coin-sized transmitter that's implanted into the skull, and it sits flush with the surface. And two, the part that actually goes into your brain tissue, a set of 1,024 electrodes that are distributed across 64 threads, thinner than a human hair. These threads penetrate into the brain tissue about 3 to 5 millimeters deep. These Link chips are implanted by a surgical robot, also of Neuralink's design. Known as R1, it makes the implantation process scalable. The R1 robot inserts these threads into the brain with a speed and precision not possible with a traditional brain surgery. But Elon and his team didn't stop there. They made sure that the Link was bidirectional, meaning that it could read as well as write brain signals. In practical terms, the Link would be able to decode a paralyzed person's thoughts in order to send an email, and also be able to stimulate the user's brain with its own signals. For example, you could theoretically stimulate a blind person's visual cortex to help them see without their eyes, a possibility that Elon Musk shared in a 2025 talk.
Neuralink has had in monkeys a working device we call blind sight. And it's been working well, and monkeys are healthy for a few years now. And we're hoping later this year to do our first device implant for a human, enabling someone who is completely blind to see. It's going to be low res at first, like Atari graphics, so I want to set expectations appropriately. So it'll start off with like very low res, but then over time, I think eventually the implant would enable vision that is like superhuman. So that'd be pretty cool.
When you stop and think
That'd be pretty cool.
About it, it sounds far-fetched at first, but it's a similar concept to the cochlear ear implant, artificially stimulating the brain using external stimuli. Although restoring vision is probably an order of magnitude more difficult than sound. It's clear that the potential medical applications of such a device are endless. Restoring movement to
No, I don't need Mecha Hitler in my brain, right?
You betray the law!
I found it.
You betray the law!
Wait, law? What are you, a fucking liberal?
Dude, I couldn't.
people with spinal cord injuries, restoring vision and speech, and further down the line, relief for those suffering from depression, improving memory recall in dementia patients, and so on it goes. But as some of you know, Neuralink's real vision is rather spicy. It goes far beyond just healthcare. Musk talks a lot about unlocking human potential, promising the device would eventually enable telepathy, machine control, and putting humans into a, quote, symbiosis with artificial intelligence, end quote. Make of all of those statements what you will. Anyway, in August of 2020, just 4 years after their formation, Neuralink showed how a device implanted into a pig recorded neural activity from her snout as she interacted with her environment. The following year, they showed a macaque monkey playing Pong using only its thoughts. The company was crushing milestone after milestone and seemed to be at the cusp of transforming millions of lives. Finally, in January of 2020...
I guess we're just gonna gloss over the monkeys who had a really bad time.
24. Neuralink installed its first brain implant into a human patient, a 29-year-old quadriplegic, Noland Arbach. A swimming accident left him unable to move from the shoulders down. a friend and longtime fan of Elon called and asked if he, quote, wanted a chip in his brain. Despite knowing that he'd be the first test subject, he said yes, and without hesitation. Quote, "It's always cool to be the first at anything. I think anyone, given that opportunity, would probably do it." End quote. That was Nolan in a 2024 interview. Nolan's implant was embedded in his left motor cortex, specifically in the part correlated to right-hand movement. Through the Link computer app, the chip translates Nolan's thoughts to cursor control. The results are remarkable. He can move cursors, play games, and text with unprecedented speed and precision.
I was not expecting it to be as good as it is. It is something that will learn over time as you give it more data, and not only be able to follow along, but it may also be able to anticipate what you want to do next, just a little bit faster than than you can think it.
It was all looking promising, great even, but just a few weeks after this landmark surgery, everything started to unravel. Not even 1 month after receiving the implant, Nolan was informed that 85% of the Link's electrodes had retracted from his brain and were no longer responsive. Fortunately, he didn't have to undergo another surgery. A software update fixed most of the problem. But there was a deeper issue here. No one from Neuralink warned Nolan about the potential risk. And this is even though the company had seen similar problems in animal trials on monkeys and other test species. This wasn't the first controversy to plague the company though. In 2023, the FDA cited Neuralink's animal testing facilities as having, quote, objectionable conditions. This includes quality control issues and poor record keeping. Some reports revealed that several
I guess we're not glossing over it, so thank you for that.
Monkeys died due to complications from Neuralink brain implants. But perhaps the most telling sign of trouble wasn't any external investigation, but the internal disagreements that caused one of the company's own founders to step away. Dr. Penn Rappaport is an extremely accomplished neurosurgeon, electrical, computer, and biomedical engineer. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, he says, quote, "In the early days of brain-computer interfaces, there was this notion that in order to extract information-rich data from the brain, one needed to penetrate the brain with tiny needle-like electrodes." End quote. This implementation method, which the Link relies on, leads to one serious side effect. It always results in some amount of brain damage. When these threads are inserted into brain tissue, they create scarring and sometimes are even rejected by the body. When this scarring occurs, the electrodes can no longer read the brain signals. And this is exactly what happened to Nolan. However, Ben Rappaport thought about the problem differently. What if there was a safer, less invasive way to get high-quality data? This clashed with Neuralink's approach. Over there, they weren't so concerned about invasiveness.
But then we wouldn't get to drive needles into people's brains, right? Christ, you.
And here, we have a clashing of heads. The internal disagreements culminated with Ben leaving the company just 1 year after their public launch. And in 2021, he founded the rival company Precision Neuroscience with co-founder Michael Mager. While seemingly operating in the same space as Neuralink, Mager emphasizes that Precision Neuroscience's mission is inherently human care focused. None of that Elon Musk flavored merging with AI stuff or superfluous human enhancement.
So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Precision Neuroscience. We are developing what's called a brain-computer interface. The company that I co-founded, I did so with Ben Rappaport. Ben was one of the co-founders of Neuralink. He's also an active neurosurgeon.
Talk about the different approaches between Precision and Neuralink.
Fundamentally different missions. If you look at Neuralink's website or speak to the co-founders of the company, I think their stated objective is to create some sort of symbiosis between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. That's a fine goal and maybe a very important one, but it's not our goal. I mentioned earlier that Ben is a neurosurgeon, so we are a physician-led company. Really built into our DNA is a focus on safety and patient impact. The goal of this company is to make a really meaningful, positive difference in people's lives. We've done 25 human implants. Our most recent was just on Friday, so this is happening actively. And at different
Elon does one, everybody and their grandmother hears about it. This dude and his company do 25. Ain't heard shit. Just doing the work, not looking for like whatever.
Different sites were able to do different protocols, which are really validating the safety of the system, that we can implant and explant it safely, and the fact that it's working, as well as training the algorithms to be able to do the decoding work that is at the core of a brain-computer interface.
Precision's BCI, the Layer 7 cortical interface, is also an array composed of 1,024 tiny electrodes, but instead of being implanted into actual brain tissue, it's thin and flexible enough to conform to the shape of your brain tissue, kind of like a cerebral glad wrap. The film is 1/5 the thickness of a human hair and doesn't create any damage, scarring, or risk of rejection by the patient's body. It also means it's easily removable. In fact, Precision Neuroscience is focused on creating a temporary implant, which can be used up to 30 days. Another key difference is where the transmitter lies. While fitting a Neuralink link requires permanent modification to the patient's brain, Precision Neuroscience came up with a much more elegant solution. They placed the transmitter under the patient's skin instead. Once removed, you'd hardly be able to tell that the patient has had it, aside from a couple of stitches. This less invasive procedure means researchers can place multiple arrays on the same patient's brain simultaneously. To date, they've managed to place as many as 4 arrays, or 4,096 electrodes on a patient's brain at the same time. Mega claims that this is a world record. Precision has also completed a human pilot study. They implanted their devices in patients.
I mean, we did 4,000 electrodes. It's a world record. Okay. Like how many like what was the previous record?
Undergoing brain surgery, then recorded the brain activity in real time. This provided the highest resolution picture of human thought ever recorded. Precision's president and chief product officer said in an interview with CNBC, quote, "It was incredibly surreal. The nature of the data and our ability to visualize that, I got chills," end quote. But even though Precision Neuroscience offers some clear advantages over Neuralink, there's a third contender who takes the least invasive route of all. Synchron, founded by Dr. Tom Oxley, created a BCI device that doesn't require any brain surgery at all. Instead, Synchron's centrode is delivered through blood vessels. A catheter is threaded through the circulatory system and up to blood vessels on the brain's surface. Here, the device unfolds like a stent. It's actually the same procedure used for treating strokes. Minimally invasive, well tested, and like the other two methods, requires no incision into the skull. But of course, there's a trade-off. For the Synchron device, the signal quality is less. By sitting in blood vessels rather than directly on brain tissue, Synchron's device captures less detailed neural information, at least when compared to the other two. But that being said, for basic functions like controlling a computer cursor, sending texts, or operating smart home devices, the signal is strong enough. Synchron has already achieved permanent implants in 10 patients and received FDA approval for longer-term clinical trials.
And it's possible that, like, if you are able to train, like, reinforcement learning with human feedback on a personal model that, like, can learn to intuit what it is that you're trying to put out there, conceivably that could make it even more accurate.
Their approach represents the safest entry into brain-computer interfaces and the lowest surgical risk. But okay, let's turn things up a notch here in this episode. What's a race with only 3 participants? There's one more company that we should look at, and they've recently made a breakthrough. BlackRock Neurotech.
And then a chill just runs down your spine.
Founded in 2008, it's one of the oldest and most experienced
What up, Samson?
BCI companies on the market. And I know what some of you might be thinking. BlackRock and brain-computer interfaces don't go together. It sounds like a dystopian nightmare. But
Look at you, Cauldron.
despite the name, BlackRock Neurotech has no affiliation with BlackRock Investment.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you. He knew.
Their latest chip, the Move Again system, uses a rigid grid of silicon microelectrodes that penetrate the cortex. With just 96 to 128 electrodes per array, its bandwidth is quite low compared to the other devices, and its rigid structure makes placement less flexible. But that's not holding them back. This device enabled a paralyzed man to speak again, and he spoke in his own voice thanks to their technology. The implant reads his brain signals as he tries to speak, then feeds them into an AI-powered...
I don't know. This company's been around since 2008. There's also, like, Sam's, as you know, there's a whole fucking BlackRock in Western New York. It's a whole place that exists. Okay, founded in 1988. So this BlackRock is, they own that.
decoding model. In just 10 milliseconds, they're converted into audible speech created using past recordings of the patient's voice.
We recently implanted a 45-year-old man with ALS.
We're simple people, Samson. Oak Street, Elm Street, BlackRock.
Who really can't be understood when he tries to speak very easily. And by using a BCI, we can translate his desire to speak and have words appear on a screen.
Not being able to communicate is so frustrating and demoralizing. It is like you are trapped.
But we can also accurately predict what he's trying to say in free-form conversation.
A lot of the demonstrations of BCI technology over the past few decades took weeks or months to get working. The first time he tried to use the system, it just worked.
Okay, ready?
That first time that he...
One grader, like, do you have the ability to, like, pay money for the models? Because that's a thing. Leonardo is a good image generator. I might have to log in. Yeah, Nemesis is good for, Nemesis is on top of the open source. Or maybe we're just not going to let me in at the moment. Does Ideogram do... No, they're just still... Ideogram is good for images with words in them. Runway... Runway has some really good tools. And if you're trying to animate album covers, I think you're going to need something where you can image to video. Yeah. So yeah, I hope any of those helped.
Tried to speak, and that word appeared on the screen. He started crying, I started crying, his family started crying. Basically everyone, we had to pause. We stopped the rest of that block of experiment trials. Everyone composed themselves and we're like, all right, let's do it again. And it kept working. So yeah, it was really special. It was a special moment.
With just 30 minutes of speech training, the system achieved an astounding 99.6% word accuracy.
Which is better than a lot of commercially available smartphone applications that try to interpret your voice, which hover around 95%. This is by far the most accurate decoding ever reported.
That was David Brandman, neurosurgeon and co-leader of the study. Quote,
Speaking of having a bad name, Brandman.
previous speech BCI systems had frequent word errors. This made it difficult for the user to be understood consistently and was a barrier to communication. Okay, this is cool and all, but as this industry continues to grow, which hopefully you can see by now that it is growing, and as more players enter the market, we have a bigger question to worry about. Should we even be doing this in the first place? Many people feel instinctively uncomfortable with the idea of merging brains and machines. It challenges our notion of human identity and consciousness. But on the other hand, what does it say about us if we don't use this tool to improve the lives of those suffering from debilitating conditions? When trying to answer questions like this, it can be helpful to break down the potential applications of the brain implants into 4 categories: treatment, prevention, enhancement, and augmentation. Treatment is any medical application that makes the patient's outcomes or quality of life better. Things like helping the blind see. Then there's prevention. This could be things like giving BCIs to people with a genetic predisposition to different neurological conditions.
I mean, I don't disagree that under capitalism has all sorts of fucking problems. But like, what do we do in the meantime is always my question. You know, like, how close are we to overthrowing capitalism? You know, like, should no one be able to have access to this technology until we overthrow capitalism? I'm free today. Everybody needs a hobby.
So far, we're within the realm of medical applications. But if we venture into non-medical applications, this is where things get murky. Using BCIs to enhance existing traits or augment humans with entirely new ones is a whole different story. If rich parents gave BCIs to some children to give them a photographic memory, the ability to see more colors, or faster reasoning skills with an actually accurate AI system, does that really seem right? Furthermore, if society was eventually divided between enhanced humans and unenhanced humans, what would that mean? It could open a Pandora's box to an eerily dystopian future. If we look 5 to 10 years in the future, there are also legal questions to consider. If at this stage in the future, brain data becomes easily readable thanks to advanced algorithms, who owns the data generated by your brain? Where should it be stored? And what are the legal acceptable uses for this data? And what happens if these systems are hacked? Imagine the powers that could be given to advertisers and governments. If it calms any nerves, Precision Neuroscience's CEO says that the FDA has things under control.
Data security and data privacy questions are really built into the regulatory regime that the FDA enforces. This is a highly regulated industry for good reason. And it's not the case where, companies are able to move fast and break things. The FDA is very prescriptive in terms of the data security and data privacy issues, as well as the fact that we operate, within the HIPAA regime.
Now, for argument's sake, let's leave aside those with disabilities that need it most. So where do we draw the line for non-medical applications of BCIs? Some will say we should never start toying with it at all. Others might think that a little bit of enhancement is okay. Unfortunately, at this time where we sit at the very beginning of the advancement of this kind of technology, there is no straightforward answer. But one thing is for sure, finding out that answer as the technology progresses will be a wild ride. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. The idea of merging mind and machine has been science fiction for decades. But as the BCIs move from labs into clinics and eventually to consumers, we'll all have to ask ourselves,
I don't know if Gemini lets you buy more credits.
ourselves not just what's possible, but what is worth doing. And the decisions we make might just define what it means to be human. What are your views on this? Are you for BCI enhancements or think it's a bad idea? Let me know in the comment section below. As you've seen, some of the breakthroughs in brain-computer interfaces were made possible with the help of AI. Now, AI is a confusing term, but it is a lot more than just generating text and images from prompts. It's making real changes in the medical field. But what if you wanted to clear up the confusion around AI? What is AI and how does it work? Well, that's where today's sponsor, Brilliant.org, comes in. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, science, data analysis, programming, and AI. They have a course on how AI works. It covers everything from large language.
According to this, there is actually, if you sign up for Google Cloud, and I don't know, like, I have no idea what any, but you get $300 in free credits that you can use for VO3. Pricing is based on video and audio output. VO3 is priced at 75 cents per second for video. If you need more credits, you can purchase additional credit packs. I want to say I actually signed up for Google Cloud when I was trying to make the I was trying to turn the fucking Google hockey puck into a fucking AI thing. Oh, Leonardo apparently has access to VO3. Leonardo AI charges a fixed token cost of $2,500 for VO3 generations, which approximately 30 cents per generation. So try those, Great Earth.
Models to neural networks, tokenization, and loss functions. Each lesson on Brilliant allows you to play with concepts, a method proven to be 6 times more effective than watching lecture videos. I find Brilliant useful for refreshing myself on key subjects. Plus, all content on Brilliant is crafted by teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Caltech, Duke, Microsoft, Google, and more. Learn at your own pace to brush up on a project for work or just for your own self-development. Try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days. Visit brilliant.org/coldfusion or click the link in the description and you'll get 20%.
Ah, shit. He got by me with Brilliant. I'm fried, y'all. I'm done for today. I'm gonna read out. I got a bunch of stuff going on and like that. I'm looking at maybe being able to do the interview for the potential other job this week. So there's that. Well, what up, Bark Eater J? Since we referenced Paradigm, I'm gonna raid Paradigm. We can ask I'm already rating Paradigm. Okay, it's working. Yeah, we can ask Paradigm to do the fucking thing. Was originally what I was gonna do, but I did show it to you. So I'll be back. I'll be back Friday to do the morning show. I'm just not sure what time. I need to get my car inspected and oil change, and they need to rotate the tires, and I'm not sure how long that all takes because I don't know shit about that. But then as soon as I get home, we'll see about stream. And Saturday morning there will be a stream 9 a.m. and like that. Another thing about the job is it'll be more regular streaming content as opposed to whatever shenanigans we're doing now. And it'll be later for the West Coast people. Anyways, in the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you've forgotten. Always remember that Chuggy loves you, and so do I. Be great.